TippFM Investigates, funded by the News Reporting Scheme. Building Tipperary.
For our first episode of TippFM Investigates Building Tipperary, we're looking at the long-awaited and long-abandoned Thurles Bypass project. We'll hear the view of local residents and businesses about why it's so badly needed. We'll hear from a local councillor about the long and tortuous route the project has taken to get to this point where it is once again on the agenda and ready to get government funding. And we'll hear from Tipperary County Council about where it stands now and the prospects for progress. But first, I spoke to Pat Hayes, who grew up in Liberty Square and is now the third generation running the Arch Bar.
Thurles does need it. I mean, it's been proven with the accidents that happened on the square, the traffic coming through Thurles. There's an awful lot of heavy goods vehicles coming through the town, and just the town isn't able for it. It wasn't built for it, it wasn't designed for it, and the trucks are just far too big for the square, and it holds up everything. It holds up all the roads coming in and out of the town, especially at school time. It's just something we really, really need for businesses, for
There's often reluctance
boards.
among businesses sometimes when bypasses are mentioned that it's going to take footfall out of the town. But you've mentioned the road safety issues and the HGVs. Like, it's crucial for a town with small streets like Thurles that big traffic is taken out, isn't it?
You need to take the big traffic out because they're actually only going through the town, they're not even stopping. So it actually hinders business because people who want to come into town to do the business can't get in because the traffic is too high, puts people off. And they'll go elsewhere, they'll go to the outskirts or they'll go to other towns where they can actually just get in easier and get out easier.
Yeah, and there has been fatalities and serious accidents involving pedestrians and trucks right here in the square, not far from your door.
Yeah, unfortunately it has happened. The trucks nowadays are so big, they're built for motorways, not for towns. You have to get the trucks out of Thurles. If you stand there for half an hour, you'll count 20, 30, maybe 40 trucks going through the town. And they're only going through the town. Like if you're coming from Rosslare going up to the west of Ireland, you come through Thurles. All the wood from Burr, from the forestry, going to Medite and Clonmel, comes through Thurles. To get the heavy goods vehicles away from town would help the town, would enhance the town. We're a student town now, and a university town, and we're also a commuter to Dublin. You can be in Dublin in an hour and 10 minutes. So I mean, like, we're ideal for extra space, for extra houses, for extra commercial units as well, because there is very few commercial units for any industry to come into the town. And our location is fantastic. I mean, like, we're only 8 or 10 kilometres from the Dublin-Cork motorway, or 17, 18 kilometres from the Limerick-Dublin motorway, train station, everything. We're 2 hours from 80% of the population of Ireland.
So huge potential, but the town has to be livable and workable.
Yeah.
I suppose this project was shelved for a long time and is back now on the national agenda. Got a mention in the NDP review at the end of last year. Michael Lowry has promised us shovels in the ground by 2030, pretty much by the end of this government. That would be very welcome, I presume.
Oh, the sooner the better. So it'll be most welcome. Just there is land out there, just pick a route and go for it. It's something that's badly needed. I mean, like, if you look at the statistics, unfortunately, some of them are quite tragic. It's a town that needs it. And if the political powers can just sit down and talk and move their differences and get it done. One thing, business is one side, but lives are more important. And we can see over the last few years on the square alone what has happened, and it's not fair.
So the bypass is clearly badly needed. Next, I spoke to Councillor Micheál Lowry, who, along with his father, Deputy Michael Lowry, and many other local representatives, have been part of a campaign to get this done. Micheál started with a potted history of the project.
The earliest record of it was back in the 50s when it was first muted. And, you know, I suppose the startling part of that is if they had identified a need almost, 75 years ago now, that Thurles had a traffic problem. It's amazing to think that here we are in 2026 and we're still talking about trying to evolve a project. You know, it kind of beggars belief in some respects. I know in the early 2000s there had been a lot of progress made, and in 2011 we had actually got to a point where we had a route selected. And unfortunately then I suppose world economics came into play, which had a direct impact on Ireland's economic position, and as a result of that, a number of projects throughout the country were cut from the NDP, or I suppose the word that was used at the time was stalled. And unfortunately then, over the 10 years between 2011 and 2021, I think it was, when the NDP came out again, it had actually gone off the agenda. It wasn't mentioned in it. Thankfully in 2025, we got the project back into the National Plan Framework, National Development Plan.
After a fairly sustained campaign through the years in the town.
There was the need for the project never went off the agenda, and I suppose in the intervening period, the local authority and the town manager back at the time, Matt Short, identified a strategic inner relief road that they were hoping to try and progress as well. So, you know what I mean, there has always been a focus on the town. There is a recognition that there are severe traffic problems in the town. When it was developed, it was for a horse and cart. There was never, I suppose, a possibility in them days when you were designing towns and streets and roads that you would have heavy goods vehicles.
Two HGVs trying to pass each other on a narrow street. They're just as room.
And I suppose the way towns are laid out, and particularly Thurles, even like turning circles, when you're coming off of national roads onto regional roads, you know, you're trying to swing 40, 50, 60-foot vehicles in a space that, you know, it was never designed for. And that poses a challenge going forward. So, you know, the need for the bypass it's well recognised. It's, you know, it's been scoped out, and I said in 2011 there was a route selected. What needs to happen now, and what we're told is happening in the background, is that is being re-examined. But I suppose where the push that from elected reps and business owners and, you know, ordinary people who use the town on a daily basis, whether it is for shopping or just travelling through it to get to other places. Like the need now is that a bit of urgency and priority is put on that project. You know, when the announcement was made last year by Deputy Lowry, there was a time frame of 5-6 years ago. We're talking about 2030, 2031. Like, you know, a year will go by very quickly. So, you know, there needs to be work being undertaken. We've seen that with the inner relief road. Like, that has slowed down too long in my eyes. So you don't want to see that happening with this project, because, you know, governments, their time and power is a short cycle.
Well, look, that's a crucial thing, Micheál, isn't it? Your father, Deputy Michael Lowry, and his influence in this government was crucial, we believe, in getting this back on the NDP, getting it in as a mention. And is that 2030 target for getting shovels in the ground that he gave us last year, is that purely based on that's when his influence is going to end, that this government won't last longer than that?
I think it was a timeline and a time frame that was put in place when he was in negotiation with him. Obviously he used his influence. There was a massive movement locally by various people and organisations and groups coming together, which all kind of, I suppose, dovetailed into being able to deliver on it. But you know, unless you do have someone who's able to influence government policy and strategy, you know, all of that, I suppose, momentum doesn't necessarily have an outlet, because it, you know, when you're talking about a project that hasn't gone anywhere in 70 years, all that goodwill and requirement and desire for the project have been there before. It's no coincidence that the two times that he was in a position to be able to influence it, back in the 2000s, the project moved forward, and again it has moved forward. We've got it back onto into the plan again. His commitment has always been there for that. I think the timeline now, and you know, this is the part that has to be stressed to council engineers and TII engineers.
What needs to happen now to keep that on track?
Like, you can't fudge this thing. Like, you know, like the route was previously selected. All that needs to be done now is an analysis. Is that still viable? Is there a better way? Can you improve on that route? Has building techniques moved forward? Because obviously costs have increased significantly since that route was initially selected. So we now need to look at what is the overall cost of this project, where can savings be made. You know, I think initially it was 3 river crossings and 4 roundabouts. Is that still the best way of doing it? You know, do you take into account that there's a proposed inner relief road that should be built as well before this kind of project gets completed, can that be linked into the bypass? It wasn't envisaged in 2011. It's now, moving forward as well. Not as fast as we wanted, but that needs to be built into the overall solution as well. So, but they need to do that, and they need to do it quickly. They can't be dragging their feet on this thing, because opportunities will go by. There's money there now, but every year that passes, costs keep increasing.
Is that what will happen, Micheál, in your understanding, or will a new design team go and start from scratch and say we need to find a route, or can they examine that green route?
Well, that's what they were tasked with doing, was go back, look at the route that was previously selected, see is it still the best route, because obviously land negotiations took place back in say 2009, 10 and 11. So if you're going to literally go back and scrap that route and start again, there's somebody going to be sitting around talking about this project in another 30 years.
So that's one view of where we are and what needs to happen. But what is the view of the local authority, who are ultimately charged with getting this off the ground and completed? I spoke to Director of Services for Roads, Liam Brett. Liam, the Thurles bypass, even though it was dropped off the national agenda in, was it 2011, it hasn't stopped being a priority for Tipperary County Council.
Thank you, Donald, first of all, for the opportunity to speak to you today. And no, certainly the bypass for Thurles has been a strategic priority for Tipperary County Council for a significant number of years at this stage. I suppose as your listeners will be more than aware, Thurles is located at the intersection of the N62, the N75, both north and south of the town, and 4 regional roads. I suppose all that network is served essentially by one bridge, and hence the problem. It's simply not able to accommodate the traffic through the area. Over the years, there's been plenty of policies and plans that have identified the need here, from county development plans, local area plans, the Thurles Transfer Plan, and indeed, as you mentioned, National Development Plan. All have identified the need here. As you rightly say, in the mid-noughties, a design team, there was work done on this in the past, and a design team was appointed in the mid to late noughties to work on a bypass for the town. In 2011, a preferred route was announced by that design team, but unfortunately, due to the recession at the time, the project went no further. It stalled, it got no further funding, and fell off the National Development Plan. So I suppose since that time, the priority for Tipperary County Council, and indeed our elected members, has been to get the project back on the National Development Plan. And thankfully, and it's very welcome that as of November 2025, that goal was achieved, that Thurles is now named as a bypass in that National Development Plan.
No, it's in an index, Liam, isn't it? It's not given a huge amount of priority, but our local TD, who's supporting the government, Michael Lowry, has told us that according to his negotiations, we should be ready to get shovels in the ground by the end of this government by 2030. How realistic is that, Liam? Can we hope that timeline can be followed?
I suppose maybe just to give some context, I suppose first, it's important to state that Tipperary County Council, while we can deliver this project, we can only deliver this project if central government funding is provided. It simply would be beyond the resources of any local authority to deliver a project of this scale. When the project will be done is essentially your query, and I suppose that's dependent on a number of factors. Number one, as I said, that funding, will sufficient funding be given on an annual basis? And I suppose while some funding has been given for this year, there's been an allocation of €50,000. As you will appreciate, that's quite small in terms of the scale of what we're trying to deliver here. So we would need to see sufficient funding for a number of years. It's dependent on but the timeline for the project is also dependent on the length of time that the project will be in statutory processes. Also, if legal challenges occur, and be dependent on how successful new national policies have been in terms of trying to speed up infrastructure delivery. So there's a number of factors at play here, and so it's very, very difficult to confirm a time frame. But it's important to be clear here. This will take a number of years to design a bypass for Thurles. Why? Because essentially the project has gone back to stage zero. The work that has been done in the past will be considered and is being considered by the new design team, but it all has to be reworked again because national policies have all changed in the meantime.
Can that work that was done, that preferred route, obviously it might need to be updated, there might even be improvements that can be made with new technologies and ways of working, but is that groundwork not still there? Can that not be used to speed up the process?
That groundwork is of assistance. That groundwork is helpful to have there. Having said that, we still need to go through a full seven-stage process to deliver this. We're back to stage 0. There's a number of national policy documents, including climate action plans, including the NIFTY document, a number of policies and documents that have been developed in the meantime, which all have to be assessed, and that route has to be assessed against those. So while it is plausible and it's possible that previous design and that previous preferred route will remain the same route, it's not guaranteed at this point in time. The project needs to start from stage 0 and needs to go through the full design life cycle.
And Councillor Micheál Lowry has said, look, for the timeline in his and his father's head to work, we would need to know that preferred route, if that can be done this year. Are we going to have progress like that this year, Liam? When will we know if that route can be used, or if there's going to be whole new routes proposed, or what will we know this year? How far can we go?
Where we can get to this year is the stage 0. So we've been working on stage 0 of the design process, but essentially the route is decided at stage 2 following public consultation. So that is a period of time away. The practicality of the design life cycle and the design guidelines developed by TAI that we must go through is that takes a period of time. So certainly it will take a couple of years before that becomes clear, the preferred route becomes clear, and it subsequently has to go through an on-commission Panola process, which again is subject to challenge. So these projects tend to take time. The last time that the Thurles bypass was at design, it was at design for approximately 4 years to get to a preferred route. So and with with all the policies that have been developed in the meantime, all of those have to be considered now again. So this will take a number of years to develop.
So we're back to square one, it seems, in the plan to get HGVs out of Liberty Square, and tempered optimism about how fast we can see progress on the Thurles bypass. It seems nothing is guaranteed yet in terms of timescale, and without continuing political pressure and determination, this project could still drag on well into the next decade.
TippFM investigates. Funded by the News Reporting Scheme. Building Tipperary.